That sound, we all know it, right? But I guarantee its story is not what you think. Yeah, when you picture a chainsaw, this is what you see. A big, powerful, rugged tool for cutting down trees. It's a total icon of forestry, of hard work.
But what if I told you that it wasn't invented for wood? Not at all. What if its very first target was human bone?
Because the unbelievable and kind of terrifying truth is that the chainsaw was originally invented for childbirth. Now, to even begin to understand how that's possible, we've got to go way back in time. So our story starts in a really grim place. We're talking about the world of 18th century surgery, which honestly can only be described as a complete medical nightmare. You see, before modern medicine, childbirth could easily be a death sentence, especially when there were complications. I mean, cesarean sections, they were almost always fatal for the mother. And get this, there was no effective anesthesia. So when doctors were faced with a baby that just couldn't pass through the birth canal, they had only one, absolutely horrifying option: a brutal procedure on the mother's pelvis to physically widen it. Speed was everything, because the patient felt every single second of it. That procedure was called a symphysiotomy. What it involved was a surgeon literally cutting through the cartilage at the front of the pelvis, the pubic symphysis, to let it separate and make more room for the baby. Just try to imagine that, done with a simple knife and saw while you are completely wide awake. So yeah, doctors were desperate for a better, faster way to do this, and that desperation led to a pretty unsettling but, necessary innovation at the time: the very first mechanical bone saw. Now, this idea of a mechanical saw didn't just pop up overnight. It actually started way back in 1785. Two Scottish doctors, John Aitken and James Jeffray, they came up with a flexible saw that had a serrated chain, all to do these symphysiotomies faster. But the real game changer came in 1830. A German orthopedist named Bernhard Hein perfected the concept, and he created what he called the Osteotome, which was, for all intents and purposes, the first real hand-crank chainsaw. And this thing right here, the Osteotome, is the direct ancestor of the modern chainsaw we know today. It was this small, kind of delicate hand cranks tool, and Bernhard Hein designed it with one single goal: to cut through bone with way more speed and precision than any simple handsaw ever could. And as completely strange as it sounds, the intention behind it was actually humane. Its whole purpose was to cut bone really fast without subjecting the patient to what they called the great concussion or shock you'd get from the old-school mallet and chisel method. Remember, in a world with no anesthesia, reducing that kind of shock and trauma was literally a matter of life or death. Okay, so how on earth did this very specialized surgical tool get out of the operating room and end up in a forest? Well, this is where the story takes a huge turn. The logic was just brutally simple. Someone, somewhere, thought, hey, if this thing can cut through dense human bone that easily, it can definitely cut through wood. That core idea, the endless cutting chain, was just way too powerful to stay locked up in medicine. So this big industrial leap happened in the early 1900s. First, in 1905, a guy named Samuel J. Benz in San Francisco patented the first endless chainsaw made specifically for cutting down trees. Then, fast forward to 1926, and the German engineer Andreas Stihl patents the first electric chainsaw. That made mass production a real possibility. And just 1 year after that, in 1927, the first gas-powered portable chainsaw was born, finally freeing the tool from those clumsy electric cords and really unleashing its full power. And let me tell you, these early industrial models were absolute beasts. Stihl's first electric one from 1926, it weighed a staggering 64 kilograms. That's about 140 pounds. It was so heavy it took 2 people to operate it. I mean, what a world away from that little hand-cranked osteotome used in an operating room. So from this one very strange origin, the technology basically split down 2 completely different paths. Each one evolved based on totally different needs. And this table here illustrates that split perfectly. You've got Hein's Osteotome with its manual endless chain, where the #1 priority was reducing trauma for the patient. Then you have modern surgical saws, which went a different way, an oscillating blade, all about precision and sterility. And finally, the industrial chainsaw we know today. It stuck with the motorized chain, but its priority became just raw power and speed. It's amazing, right? One idea, 2 completely different destinies. Thankfully, and I think we can all agree on this, for anyone needing surgery today, these tools evolved in a very different and much safer direction.
Yeah, the modern surgical saw was pioneered by a Dr. Homer Stryker back in the 1940s, and here's the crucial thing to understand. These tools are nothing like a chainsaw. They use a blade that vibrates really, really fast. It oscillates. It doesn't use a chain. And this brilliant design is what lets them cut through hard bone while leaving all the soft tissue around it completely unharmed. For these tools, patient safety and sterility are the absolute top priorities. It's a whole other universe from their terrifying ancestor.
So, the next time you hear that engine roar, whether it's deep in a forest or just in your neighbor's backyard, I want you to remember something. The very first thing it was ever designed to cut wasn't a tree.